Okay, yeah, now I'm recording. I was saying I'm sorry for changing the day from Wednesday to Tuesday. Um, just for this week, it's only for this week because tomorrow at around the same time, I won't be home. I'll be having some other commitment. So I thought we can't skip the lesson. So since you had nothing for today, I asked the VUT guys if we can meet today. So today we are starting our first lesson. Last week we just looked at the definitions of management and the four main functions: planning, leading, organizing, and controlling. Does anyone have a question on those ones before we proceed?
Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Hi, some of us are new here. First lesson with you.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. So you need to ask for the recording for the introductory class and also the slides for last week. But it wasn't much that we did. Let me try to open here. This is what we did last week. We had the summary of the module, and then we had several definitions of management, which I was explaining. You are going to see them. Then we just looked at the four main functions, which we had seen from the definitions. We kept on seeing the word managers, plan, organize, lead, control. So we then looked a bit in detail on those four: planning, it's setting goals and creating plans to achieve them. That's what managers do. Then the second thing is they lead, they motivate and direct employees. They also organize, which is to develop structures for allocation of resources. And they also control to make sure that everything is moving smoothly. They check, evaluate performance to ensure that the plans are met. So that's what we covered on the introductory. And of course, we were meeting for the first time. And for some of you, I am seeing messages from someone showing that I am the one who was taking you for Introduction to Business Management last semester. So for those who were in that class, today you are in luck. You should actually take part a lot because I know this topic, it was there in the Introduction to Business Management. So it's managerial levels and the skills. It's a very short topic. We'll just cruise through it because our main concern are the other things which we have not covered before. So I hope I've helped you. I've forgotten the name of the lady who said she's attending for the first time. So at least you have a background now. Okay. So can we proceed to today's lesson? Does anyone else have a question, a comment, anything? Okay. So you are a combined class. So what I do is I always watch out to see that we give both your classes the best service, not only in study guides lessons, because the study guide lessons are the same. Your study guides are the same for fundamentals of business management and for introduction to functional areas of management. We start having differences on the KCQs, on the exam preparation, but we will do it combined together because it still benefits the both of you. So today we want to look at the levels of management and the skills of management, now that we know what management is. So we have three main levels of management, and those three main levels of management, you find that they are linked, they are related to the skills that are required at each level of management. Okay, so the three levels of management are the top management, the middle management, and the lower management. We call, sometimes we call it the supervisory management. So who are the lower level managers? These can be supervisors, and the lower level management, they direct the operating employees. They do not supervise other managers. So the lower level managers are in charge of workers. They are not in charge of anyone who is in a leadership position. Then the middle managers, so in other words, what we are saying on the lower level management is that this is the lowest level of authority within the organization. That's the person that we call the lower level manager. Then we also have the middle managers. So the middle managers, they direct activities according to their departments or to their areas of expertise. And then they also, in a way, supervise the first line managers. Then we have the top management. The top management, they are responsible for the overall management of the whole organization. They establish operating policies and guide the organization's interactions with its environment. So what we are saying there is that the top managers, depending on the organization, some organizations can be small. The top manager can just be a manager, general manager. Middle manager, you might find you only have two managers, maybe someone in charge of sales, someone in charge of finance, and then the first line manager, this will just be a team leader, or they won't even be a first line manager. But as the organizations grow, the bigger the organization, the more of these levels that you are going to be able to identify. You can find top management having two tiers, CEO at the top, then the executives following there. They are all still top managers. Then you have the middle managers there, and then the first line managers or the lower level managers. You might find also there are quite a number of them because of the size of the organization. So depending on the size of, they are not fixed. They are not fixed. Then the titles that we normally get. Top management, we have the titles of CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, we have the Managing Director, we have the Chief Financial Officer. It can be partners, like in a law firm, the highest management are partners. They are called partners. You can have the Board of Directors. And like we said, the top managers, their purpose is to formulate policy or strategy. Then the middle managers, these are the ones who implement that policy or strategy which was set by the top managers. So the titles that we normally have, we have HR manager, production manager, marketing manager, logistics manager. We are going to look at more of these because your study guide is focused on each of the middle managers' functions, and we are now looking at them in more detail. Okay, so there are many more. There are more than the four that I mentioned here, and they form about, I would say, about maybe 90% or maybe 80% of your of your syllabus. That's why we'll need to go into more detail on each. Then we also have the lower level managers or the first line managers. This can be a foreman, it can be a supervisor, it can be a team leader, it can be a project manager. These guys are there to apply the policy or the strategies. Are we clear so far on the levels of management? Do you remember this from last semester when you were doing IBM?
Yes, Suzanne, I do remember.
You do remember, yeah. Even the
Yes.
slides, I'm sure they are quite similar.
Yeah,
So
yes, quite
today,
similar.
yeah, so today it's like a repeat for you guys for the
Yes.
first part until we get to the other part. Then these managers, I've just skipped this one here. It just talks about the lower, the hierarchy within the organization. So we have three types of skills that managers are expected to have. Managers are expected to have conceptual skills, they're expected to have human skills, and they're expected to have technical skills. So the conceptual skills, you can see from my illustration there, it's someone thinking a lot, strategizing. Those are the conceptual skills. So the conceptual skills, they involve one's ability to think strategically, to understand the organization as a whole, and to grasp complex and abstract ideas. What's the importance of the conceptual skills? It's because the managers who have the ability to have conceptual skills, they will be able to have a holistic view of the organization. So they are able to see the bigger picture. They are able to know the link between what is happening in one department and how it affects the other department. Things like that. Then we also have the examples, a few examples of conceptual skills. We have strategic thinking, the development of a vision, problem solving, understanding market trends, decision making based on long-term objectives. So the decision making on conceptual skills is strategic decision making, which is long-term. And once again, you find that oh, sorry, I'm seeing there's some messages. Someone says Susan is breaking. Oh, okay. All right. Sorted. Then the other type of skills that managers need are the human skills. So the human skills, they relate to how we interact among ourselves. Are the skills that you have in terms of human skills. So your ability to have empathy, your ability to understand other people, your ability to communicate is what makes up your human skills. And the importance is that as a manager, you definitely deal with people. You need to be able to deal with people. You need to build relations. You need to motivate. You need to resolve conflicts. You know, there is a lot that you do which involves people. And the examples of such skills, we have leadership, communication, teamwork, conflict resolution, motivation, ability to understand and manage employee dynamics. Then lastly, we also have the technical skills. So technical skills, we usually talk about technical skills in the concept of areas of expertise. We usually talk about them with regards to expertise. If someone is an expert in a certain field, those are the technical skills that they have. So we have on the technical skills, okay, I was a bit lost. We have knowledge of specific software, the IT guys, we have equipment operation, the manufacturing guys, we have process management, it's production management, data analysis, other job specific technical competencies. So the importance of this is that as a manager, when you are managing a team of people, you need to have knowledge of what those people are doing. How do you supervise people when you don't know whether what they are doing is right or wrong? So you need those technical skills. So we have 3 levels of management. We have 3 types of skills that people need. And then we find that those are linked in a way. They are linked. I'll just go through the linkages quickly because we want to get on to the lesson on the functional areas. I couldn't just skip this because I know you did that in your last semester, but we can't skip because not everyone was with us. How many people are here who were not in the IBM class? Who are hearing this for the first time? Can was there's only one person who said she wasn't in the other classes? Oh, so it's only one. Everyone else, we were together last semester.
Yes.
Yes, Suzanne.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Hi, Suzanne. Not all of us. I'm new in your class also.
Oh, okay.
But last week I was attending your class.
Oh, okay. All right. No, that's all right. So the link, let's look at the link between the level and the skill. So one thing I want you to realize is that as a manager, you need all the 3 skills. However, you need them in different doses. You don't need all the 3 skills in equal levels of proficiency. So if we look at the first line manager, the foreman, the supervisor, as much as they need the conceptual and the human skills, they actually need the technical skills more because their main task is to supervise the actual work being done. So if we are running an organization that does what? Maybe the food industry, the first line manager, the foreman, surely they have to be a chef. They need to know if you are making this dish, you need this and you need that. And even while someone is preparing the dish, they should be able to supervise them and tell them, no, you are doing this wrong. You have put too much of this in your recipe or whatever, but they need those technical skills. However, they also need human skills because they deal with people, they are leading people. And yes, they also need conceptual skills. They need to have an understanding of the organization and its strategic lifespan, So they need more technical skills, a bit of human skills, and the conceptual skills. Then in terms of planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, we saw this question a number of times on the KCQs for last semester, where they were asking, like first line manager, which skill they need more than the others. So first line managers, we have leading there, we have organizing, we have a bit of planning and controlling, but not as much. And their time orientation is short term. The first line managers, they are planning, they are controlling, everything is short term. It's usually on a day-to-day basis or just weekly and so on, but they are not, they will not sit down and plan for what they will be doing 5 years from now. As a first line manager, their orientation is short term. Then the middle managers, these are the guys who are in charge of specific departments. They need a lot of human skills, a lot of human skills, a bit of conceptual and a bit of technical skills. So they also need to understand what's happening on the technical side, but their main function is not to be proficient or to be experts in the production. If it is the human resources manager, yes, they know that people are cooking, they need this, they need this and that, but not as much as they don't need the human skills as much as the other managers. Then lastly, we have the top management. Top management need more conceptual skills. A lot of them, they actually lack on human skills. Have you seen how unfriendly or unapproachable most CEOs are? We have a few who can be approachable, but most of them, has anyone ever experienced that with the top management?
Yeah, they mostly are very mean, and I don't know why, but when they're too friendly, they appear to be weak. I think I actually prefer them being mean. When they're friendly, they become like appear weak. So I don't know.
Yeah, you walk all over them because they are friendly to you. So, but I wouldn't say they are mean. I would say maybe they are a bit aloof. They are just not that, yeah, they are just not that approachable. But it's also the nature of their job. They have to make hard decisions. And at the end of the day, like you are saying, if they are too approachable, too friendly, we tend to associate that with weakness. We don't see them with as much authority as they should have when they have too much human skills. If they want to communicate everything that happens in the organization, they want to communicate, then you end up not being a CEO. You are now like a public relations officer. The technical skills, yes, they also want to know, they might need to know a little bit of what's happening on the ground floor, but their main focus is on the strategic part. I've heard people complaining about organizations that employ managers, top managers, who have no technical knowledge whatsoever of the field. You hear people saying, we are in this industry, and they have taken a CEO who was in another industry who has no knowledge whatsoever. And guess what? That manager can still excel as long as they are top managers. So if it is maybe the example that I gave you, the food business, the food industry, you can have a CEO who doesn't even know how to cook, and they can still take the company to higher levels, even though they are just they have no idea what happens in cooking. So we now have a summary of all that we've been talking about. The last two slides are the summary. I'm going to send you these slides. I would want you, please, to take the time to go over them. Once again, you know, sometimes when you write the exam, some things just, you leave them in the exam room, they just disappear. So you might need a short refresher course on the management levels and the skills. So we have this summary. It's on the top managers, middle managers, and lower managers versus the responsibility that they have in the organization, their main function, the time orientation, and the common positions that they hold. And also, we have a summary which has to do with the skills. Like the top managers, you can see they have a bigger part being orange there to illustrate the conceptual skills, and a very small part on the technical skills. It's almost non-existent there. And then the human skills a little bit more, and on like that. Any questions on this one before we move on? Any questions on the management levels and the skills? Should we proceed to the functions? Okay. Didn't you guys get last week's slides? They were not sent. I'm seeing someone asking for them.
No.
No, we
Oh.
didn't get them.
No, we didn't
Okay.
get them.
All right. I will remind them to send together with the ones for this week. So when I say management functions, this time I'm not talking about the functions as in planning, leading, organizing, and controlling. I now mean the different functions that the apply to middle managers, the areas of expertise. So like I said, we are going to look into more detail of each, but today we just want to familiarize ourselves with each function. Confirm you can see the new screen, which is written functional areas of management.
Yes, we can
Yes,
see
we
this.
can.
Okay. So the functional areas of management, they apply to middle managers. And like we said, we are talking about them having an expertise or a skill in their field area. They are in charge of a particular set of employees, and we usually call these departments. In most organizations, these are called departments. So we have picture there, an illustration showing some of the functions that you might find in an organizational chart. So that organizational chart has got the top management there being the board of directors. Then we have the middle managers according to their different functions. We have marketing, we have human resources, finance, operations, logistics. These are just a few of the functions that you normally find in an organization. And then we have the first line or lower level management. You can have sales managers who are in charge of the sales reps. You can have the product manager on the marketing department. In human resources, what's the lower level manager that you can have there? Let's just complete this illustration. Lower level managers from human resources.
I think HR assistants.
Yes, you can have the HR assistants. With some organizations, they are called HR officers. They can be officers, depending, like I always say, it depends on the size of the organization. With some organizations, HR officer is a middle manager, and then the HR manager is part of the top management. So you can have HR assistants, you can have maybe usually they'll give them sections. They can say HR assistant recruitment, HR assistant health and safety, HR assistant in charge of this. Then finance, in finance, what lower level managers can you have there? If you are in an organization and you have a query that needs finance, do you go straight to the finance manager?
Accounts clerk.
Yeah, you can have someone in charge of accounts receivable, the other one in charge of what's the opposite of accounts receivable? Is it the debtors or the creditors, whatever, but they normally separate them. Or accounts payable and accounts receivable. Those can be two separate departments, sub-departments within the finance department. Then we have operations. Operations would depend on the organization. If, let's say, it's a manufacturing organization, you can have supervisors in charge of each section of production. Maybe they produce different things. You have a supervisor or a foreman for each section. Then logistics, it normally has to do with transportation. So you can have someone in charge of the fleet, you can have someone in charge of the drivers, and so on. So let's just look at the main functions that we know of and what they do in brief. We are still going to come back and look at them in more detail on another day. And you might find we can have a lesson for each of the departments, because we will now be going into more detail. So make sure you don't miss those lessons, because what we are covering here is just the surface. Marketing. Marketing is concerned with all aspects that have to do with selling the product or the service. If it's the service industry, they are worried about selling the service. So they want to meet the needs and wants of customers. They ensure the survival, the growth, the reputation of the organization. With some organizations, they will have a separate department, the public relations, to deal with the reputation. With others, if maybe it's a smaller organization, marketing will be in charge of the reputation of the organization. So their main worry is to widen the market. They want to increase the clientele that they have. They also worry about the pricing policy. How do we come up with prices? All this, we are going to get into detail on it, the types of pricing, the methods of widening the market on the day that we'll do marketing. They are also concerned with product development, with the competition, and social responsibilities. So the main elements that we are going to talk about when we look at marketing, it's what we call the marketing mix: the product, price, promotion, and place. If you have done introduction to management, you'll be familiar with these terms. We call them the 4 Ps, the 4 Ps of marketing. The 4 Ps: product, price. So day in, day out, the marketing team, these are the tasks that they do for the organization. And their main focus is on the 4 Ps. They want to look at the product that they are producing as an organization. That's the product or service. They want to ensure that it's the best that it can be. They want to look at the price. And price, remember, we are not just saying it should be cheap, but it should align with the quality or the reputation that they want to portray, the promotion, how do they get the message across to the consumers, and then the place is where they distribute those products that they have. So that's one of the most common functions within organizations, the marketing function. So we have an illustration here showing some of their day-to-day basis, the analysis that they take care of, the market audit, market research, and marketing mix that marketing managers are in charge of. Then besides marketing, we also have the financial department. The financial department is concerned with acquiring funds for the organization. If the organization is running out of funds, they are the ones who know where to get loans, how to get loans, how to increase the equity of the organization. They are also concerned with the usage of the funds. Remember, no money goes out of the organization without the blessings of the finance department. You have to apply to the finance department, even if you want to buy a laptop or you want to buy furniture or you want to pay for something. You are the procurement manager, you bought some goods, you still need the finance department with the usage of the funds of the organization. And also the control, they take in the budgets, they cut where they need to cut, they increase where they need to increase. So they control the funds of the organization. So this is the main function of, it's the summary of what finance does: acquiring funds, usage, control. Even if you put 10 tasks that they do per day, you will find each task is either acquiring the funds, using the funds, or controlling the funds. Okay, so which funds are we talking about? We are talking about the cash. We are talking about the cash that is in the bank. We are talking about investments. We are talking about the capital of the organization. And they also control the assets, the land, the machinery, the equipment, property, all that. It is the finance department that controls. They are the ones who say, we are renting out this space because it is not being productive. We are buying this space because the production manager said we need another warehouse or whatever, but it is them that will agree or not agree to buying. So the goals of financial management, they do have what they are aiming to achieve, their goals, their objectives. There is profit maximization. They want to ensure that the organization makes as much profit as possible. So being the money guys, they are just generally in charge of that. Then they are also concerned with wealth maximization. When we talk of wealth, we are talking about that which you have set aside, that which you can afford to set aside for future use. So they create wealth from the profits. Then they are also concerned with the survival of the company. These are the people who will come to you and say the liquidity of the organization is in danger. We have run out of liquid funds and so on. So that is concern about the survival. Then they maintain the cash flow. They make sure that there is enough liquid funds for short-term and long-term expenses. And they ensure that they minimize the usage or the cost of capital. The capital cost minimization, here we are talking about keeping expenses under control, making sure that we are keeping the expenses in control. If you are the finance manager and you are not firm, you can find yourself losing out or failing when it comes to capital cost minimization. If you just say everyone who requests for anything, you give them, then you can find yourself in serious trouble. Then funds estimation, they also make estimates, how much money is going to be needed when, short term, long term, and so on. Then they also determine the capital structure, how it's going to be like. They decide we are buying stocks, we are putting the money that we have towards this and that. They know what structure is best for the organization. So these are the goals of financial management. Then I think we can look at human resources and production. Human resources, they are in charge of the people within the organization, the human resources, the people in the organization. So they attract, they attain, and they retain the labor. So they have three main functions there, same as the, the financial management. We say they acquire, they use, and they control. With human resources, we say they attract, they attain, and they retain. What do we mean by that? Attracting human resources, they create an organizational culture that will make people want to work for that organization, and they control, they receive the applications. They are the ones who headhunt. They are the ones who are going to find the scarce employees that we need, maybe with specific skills and so on, that is now attaining the labor. So by attaining the labor, we are talking about recruitment and selection. And then lastly, they retain or they maintain labor. They make sure that the people that they have got who are performing well do not leave the organization. That is what they do. How do they do that? Human resources is in charge of creating the conditions that are in the organization. So if you hear someone saying, the conditions at that company, they are terrible, we never go for leave, that is on the desk of human resources. And if ever anyone has issues with the conditions of the service, they always go to human resources. That's where you sign your contract of employment. That's where you negotiate your salaries. That's where you go to apply for loans. That's where you go to apply to work from home. Everything that has to do with your work life, wellness, everything, it's in human resources. So that's what they are mainly concerned with. So I've put a list of things there that they do: conditions of service, pay rates, leave conditions, staff attrition. They deal with dismissals, retrenchments, resignations, and they are also the custodian of the labor laws. They are the ones who interpret the law, the labor laws for the organization. Number 4, any questions on the 3 that we have covered so far? before we go to number 4? Maybe I can overload you. We spoke of marketing, we spoke of finance, we spoke of human resources. Are you good so far?
Yes, Suzanne.
Everything is clear. Okay. All right. So let's go to the production department. Now, some organizations will have a production department and they will have an operations department, but some, it's just one thing. So the production function is concerned with converting raw materials and semi-finished goods to finished products. That's their main function in production. They are concerned with the actual process of production. They want to ensure there is effectiveness. They want to ensure there is efficiency. We spoke about these, I think, last week, effectiveness versus efficiency. So the summary is that efficiency is how quickly a task gets done. Effectiveness is how well it's done. We are talking in terms of production. So if something is effective, it produces the intended result, whereas if it is efficient, it functions with the least use of resources. And one of their main tasks, their day-to-day tasks, is the transformation process. So the transformation process, this is any activity or group of activities that takes one or more inputs, transforms and adds value to them, and provides outputs for customers or clients. So when we are talking in terms of production, we are saying a group of activities that takes one or more inputs. You take sugar, you take flour, you take electricity, all those inputs, transform and add value to them. You are now baking, you are now making bread there and provide outputs for the customers. We want to see a loaf of bread sitting there. In the morning, you had a bag of flour, you had a bag of sugar, you had some milk, you had an oven, you had electricity. When you then go through the transformation process and you then come up with outputs for consumers, then you have done the transformation process effectively. That's just the basic of a basic example, but it's more complicated than that. Transformation process is more complicated. We have 3 elements that come into the transformation process, as you can see on the illustration there. You have inputs, you have the process itself, and then you have outputs. So the inputs can be anything. It could be knowledge, skills and expertise, like the example that I was giving of someone who is able to cook. Can be information, the information technology people. It can be a specialized site or even online. There are some services that we get online. For example, students, lecturers, anything. Then process those through transformation, work in progress, provision of advice, experience. There are so many different ways to process. Imagine from the time you walk into legal firm, a transformation process is already going on from the moment you walk into the door. Maybe you go there, you want to seek legal guidance concerning something. You go in, you are just a customer. The inputs that firm is going to put there is information, the legal process. They are going to do this and that. Maybe they will sue someone. Maybe they will assist you to apply for something. And then the output is the service that you get. At the end of the day, you are, I don't know, maybe successfully divorced, or you've managed to sue someone who wronged you. That is a transformation process. Or you walk into a medical facility, you are not well, a transformation process takes place there, and you walk out, you are much better. It is the output, your health, your improvement of health is the output there. So don't limit transformation to production only. It's easier to explain in production, but it applies in every aspect of the business. And as you are doing that, you can see from my illustration, there is planning, leading, organizing, and controlling going on throughout that transformation process there. The fifth most common department is research and development. We have so many organizations that have a research and development department. Any examples of organizations that have research and development? I know it's not all organizations. Anyone who has ever heard of an organization that has a research and development department? Okay, food manufacturing companies, oh, they do have, I didn't know that. I've only heard of research and development in most NGOs. Oh, mining, someone says mining, they also have research and development. NASA, yes, definitely. Yeah, NASA, they definitely have that. They have to research. The motor industry, yes. What does SpaceX do? I'm not familiar with that organization. We have someone who SpaceX. Oh, Elon Musk. Thank you. Yes, they definitely have a research and development. So you can see that it's not every organization that we have. And these are the type of departments that you find usually in well-established companies, unless the nature of the organization is research and development. If the nature of the organization is not research and development, you will rarely find an organization that has this department, especially if it's a small one. But big companies, they need to have research and development. So what do these guys do? They are responsible for developing new products and improving existing ones. Their importance, it's crucial nowadays, because we know the industries that we have, there's a fast rate of change that is happening there. So they are crucial in fast changing industries like technology and pharmaceuticals. Otherwise, if you don't have research and development, you get left behind. And I think for pharmaceuticals, it's actually dangerous not to have research and development, because those are the guys who are going to tell you that this drug, eventually it causes cancer. We should remove this component or this thing from the drug. It's causing people to get side effects like this and this. Then research and development team also drives innovation and competitive advantage. Their key activities are four main ones. There is product development, which is the one that we are all familiar with, and the product improvement, we are familiar with this one, especially in the technology industry. We know we started off with those phones that could not connect to internet. We didn't even have internet back then. Then we improved and improved. Now we are holding the smartphone. I wonder 10 years from now what the phone will be like. Maybe it's going to be much, much improved. What do you call those phones that couldn't connect to internet? What do you call them? The slang name for them. Or maybe you guys never used those phones. The ones that had no touch. Uh-uh. Are you familiar with the phones that I'm talking about? Do you know them? Yes, exactly like that one, TG, the one that you have typed. What do you call those types of phones? So you can go and research on that. I know you know the words, but you just don't want to say them because they are mainly slang words. But exactly like what TG said, the Nokia 3310s, they had no touch function, they had no ability to connect to internet, they had no cameras, and so on. So if a research and development team for a cell phone company started off with that one, first what they developed is a cell phone. Previously, people were using phones that could only be accessed in the home. You couldn't go out with it. Then the research and development team realized that, you know what, people need to communicate even when they are outside their homes. Then they came up with that phone. That phone, you could receive calls, you could phone, you could text and receive texts. That was product improvement. And on product improvement, it's still ongoing through the market research. Do you see I'm now on number 3 there? Market research, identifying emerging trends and customer needs to guide development. So as they were improving the product, they were doing market research. They realized, you know what, this phone can also have a camera. They put a camera. They used to have cameras even before they had touch screen. There is need to have more space. I remember my first phone, it was a 4 gig phone. Right now, if you give me a 4 gig phone, I can't function. I can't even survive a day with it. But they actually increased from 4 to 8 to 16, and now we are talking about 128. Those are product improvement through market research. That's number 2 and number 3 on the screen there. Then it keeps on improving. Now it has touch screen. Now it has video. Now it has a camera. Now there are games. Now there's this. Now the last main function of the research and development team is the testing and validation. This is where they ensure that the new products meet quality standards and regulatory requirements. So you find that these 4 activities, they are ongoing. They keep on going as long as you have a research and development team. So that team is always at work. They are always finding ways to develop new products. They are always finding ways to improve the existing products. They are always researching on what the consumers need, and they are always testing and validating to make sure that you are meeting the standards that you want. Now, the challenges that the research and development team faces, we have 2 main challenges. Number 1 is keeping up with the rapid technological changes. And number 2, it's ensuring that the products meet the regulatory standards, because these standards also, they are always changing. They are forever updating, the parliament changing this and that. So if you are a research and development manager, these are the two main challenges that you are going to face. So I think we can end with research and development. Then we are going to finish off the rest on next week. And remember, next week we are back to Wednesday because I will now be settled. So as part of your homework, I want you to go and find as many departments as you can that are there in different organizations. Then we are going to make a list of them next week after we finish the ones that I have. Any questions on production and research, even on the earlier ones? No questions. Okay, so I'll send you the slides for last week and what we have covered so far this week. And yeah, I think that's it. The links, you get them from the VUT guys. So we can end here if there are no other questions.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay, have a
Thank you
good
so
night, guys.
much.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you so much, Suzanne.